The cod family in the New England area is a very important food fish. One of my favorite books actually is called Cod, a biography of the fish that changed the world by Mark Kurlansky, a retired cod fisherman. It'll teach you more about cod than I ever could, so if you're bored during these lockdown days, maybe have Amazon ship you a copy or see if you can find an online version. But Leif Erikson and the Vikings used to live on this fish, and it was a 1 to 200 pound fish back in their day. But they started what's called the Cod Wars, which you could read all about in this book. And now what we're left with in an overfished market are these modern day market sizes. So to see anything bigger than market size of 2.5 to 10 pounds is quite special. This fish borders on, teeters always on the sustainable, unsustainable line. A lot of it depends on how it's caught. I am very pro, small boat hook and line. There's an organization out of Cape Cod, the Chatham Hook and Line Association, which does an amazing job. But sadly, all too often, they go otter trawling for these fish and just swoop in and get these large numbers of all different sizes and, slow-growing fish, and its reproduction rates are severely compromised. So you may see it on the market, you may not. One thing to keep in mind with cod is when we're done filleting them, we have to candle them. And by candling, I mean put them on a light box, like the old days when they would candle eggs, and look for the codworm. We know that codworms are found in seals. Out of their vent come their effluent, and the eggs hatch. It looks like a small shrimp. The cod will eat it. It gets in the cod. The process starts in there. The seal eat the cod. The process starts in there. Monkfish, which we'll talk about in Module 4, eat cod. They get codworms. Flatfish eat the larva that the cod family eats. So you may see, especially in the New England area, the gray sole will have codworms inside of it. But we do have to pull them. They're fine. They're safe if they're frozen or cooked. But if it's raw, pull them. And even if it's cooked, just due to the visual lack of appeal, I would highly recommend removing them. Here we have the Atlantic cod, the namesake of the family, and the identifying characteristic for all the family members would be their eyes are sunken in. They are also reflective. These fish live in super deep, dark waters, so it's almost like a bowl. It catches any available light and helps shine it back out to sea. You can see that the fish has 3 distinct dorsal fins, and we mentioned that the other day. Those are down the center line of the body, and those rays or bones go all the way to the spine. At the face, if you can notice, it's got an overbite. Top of the jaw is longer than the bottom. It's got that appendage on its lower jaw called the chin barbel. That actually helps a fish find food in the dark. This fish has green spots all over its body. You may see cod that are green, brown, red, or silver, but they'll all have green spots. The lateral line running the length of the body is white. You won't see too many fish with a white lateral line, so that'll help you identify it. And on the underside, it's got 2 standard pelvic fins and 2 anal fins. Now we know those are anal fins because they're in the center line of the body. This fish is low activity, so that's going to be a white-fleshed fish. This will go for all cod members, so I don't have to talk about it on every slide. All 5 cod members that we'll talk about are low activity, so they have light-colored flesh. They all have low oil content, and they're all very mild in flavor. Some are a little firmer than others. The cod is slightly firm. It's similar to a halibut if you've never had cod before. Big flakes, but very mild. Doesn't have much going on. So you'll usually see it paired up with a real nice beer batter for that contrast of, consistency and texture, a little bit of snap. But really nice fish. You can find it fresh. You can find it frozen. Many times people still dehydrate it and make salted cod. So you will see it on campus. The haddock is a cod member family, which looks very similar to the Atlantic cod in as much that it has an overbite, the clear reflective eye, 3 dorsal fins and 2 anal fins. It's silver like a cod can be, but this one has a distinctly black lateral line and a spot right above its pectoral fin you can see called the devil's thumbprint. This fish historically has been more expensive than cod, and if you ordered it skin off fillet, many times the fishmonger would sub cod, Atlantic cod skin off, and you would never know the difference until you tasted it. So there's one more reason if you're going to buy fillet, by its skin on. Identification is a huge thing, and mislabeling of fish is a tragic byproduct of our industry. Here we have the pollock, which is usually number 4 or 5 on the most heavily consumed fish in the United States of America list. If you were in person right now, I'd ask you all to raise your hand if you've eaten this fish, and most of you would not until I show you the next slide and you realize that you have. The pollock is generally used for fish processing. Up here in the New England area, they refer to this fish as blue cod because it has a kind of a gunmetal gray or bluish tint to its fins. It looks like a cod with the 3 dorsal fins and the 2 anal fins, the clear reflective eye. This is the only fish, though, with a distinct underbite. Its bottom jaw sticks out further. So deep water, usually found in the Pacific, the Bering Straits. Lovely fish, very sustainable. And here you have how most people eat pollock. The top left picture is a brand we use in CIA called sushi sticks. And that's just an extruded product. The product is called surimi. And it's used in the bottom middle picture. You can see the California rolls, right? Artificial crab meat. In the dead center, pollock is used for McDonald's filet fish sandwiches. The bottom left, you can see that's called crab, spelled K-R-A-B, another imitation crab product. The top right, you see naruto, which are fish cakes. You'll see those in udon pots or ramen pots, or they actually make sushi rolls with them as well. The bottom right, they take that surimi paste, and that's wrapped around shark meat and then covered in eel skin and then baked off. So a very, very versatile product. The cusk is one of my favorite members of the family. If you take a look at the 2 bottom pictures, the one on the left, many people in my presence, when I ask them what they think it looks like, they respond that it looks like an eel. And I want to let you know that this fish is called a cusk, and the fish on the right-hand side is actually called a cusk eel, or sometimes marketed as a king clip. If you can see, I'll give you a second to look at it and see if you can tell the difference between the 2 of them. The fish on the right has a fin that wraps all the way around its body. That's a eel-like fish. They have one continuous fin. The cusk, on the other hand, has a continuous dorsal fin, a continuous anal fin, and a distinct tail. Okay, now here's another fish that doesn't have scales, so we can't go by that for a freshness check. Very thick, heavy-duty, leathery-like skin, challenging for many people to cut. This fish is not always available. It usually comes up in the nets as bycatch, and cod fishermen are allowed to keep them. You can usually find this fish for very, very inexpensive prices, around $2 or less a pound. So if you think about, by the time you fabricate it and portion it, you're looking at something that you can sell for a couple of dollars on your menu and do very well for yourself. Since it's very firm, I recommend either like a braise or a deep fry or a stew or a chowder. But a very good example of a fish that used to be considered a trash fish or an unattractive species or an alternative species, but this is where the industry's headed. The hake, or the white hake, is a really cool fish, cod member family. This is one that has 2 dorsal fins. So if you remember back in Module 1 when we were talking about fin structure, you could have 1 dorsal fin, like the cusk, 2 dorsal fins, like the hake, 3 dorsal fins like the cod or haddock, and it's got 1 long continuous anal fin. The fish does not have pelvic fins, so it has these whips, long willowy whips that help feel around the bottom. And once again, this fish bucks 2 of the freshness checks. This fish has loose fitting scales. They're kind of purple tint, and they'll come right off in your hand if you rub the fish. And then it's got those sunken reflective eyes. Some people would also say that it's slightly softer, so if you depress it, it may not bounce back like responding to light pressure as we talked about with the other freshness checks. But a lovely fish, very similar in texture and consistency to crab meat. So it kind of has that nice fibrous or lobster claw, kind of a sweet buttery aroma when you eat it. Really perfect for fried fish or pan fry fish, even a saute or a broil. I'd pair it up with something slightly crispy to provide some balance, but when we have this during the tasting, people really like it.